Let's imagine for a second that you're on a flight from Los Angeles to New York. You've settled into your seat, stowed your bags, and just started your in-flight movie when suddenly the plane drops 100 feet or about 30 meters. What just happened? Did we crash? Well, not yet, but things aren't looking good. You feel the plane drop again, this time even more, to 100 feet or about 60 meters. Your heart is racing. You look around to see if anyone else is freaking out. They're not. Are they just used to this? Should you be worried? In order to figure out what's going on, let's start with the basics of how a plane flies. There are 4 forces acting on an airplane at all times: thrust, drag, lift, and gravity. Thrust and drag are pretty straightforward. Thrust is the force that moves the plane forward generated by the engines, and drag is the resistance that slows the plane down generated by the air that the plane is moving through. Lift is the upward force generated by the wings that counteracts gravity and keeps the plane in the sky. For a plane to fly, lift has to equal gravity and thrust has to equal drag. If any of these forces become unbalanced, the plane is gonna have a bad time. But before we get into why planes crash, we need to talk about something called turbulence. Turbulence is basically when the flow of air becomes uneven and chaotic, creating bumpy, unpredictable movements in the air. Picture it like this. Imagine you're at a beach and you look out to see the ocean is really calm. The waves are small and the surface of the water is relatively flat. This is like smooth, non-turbulent air. Now imagine a storm comes in and the wind starts to blow really hard. The waves get bigger and more choppy and the surface of the water becomes rough and uneven. This is like turbulent air. And just like the ocean, this air is really unpredictable. It can change direction and speed really fast, which can make flying in it really dangerous. So what does this have to do with our turbulent flight from LA to New York? Well, the first drop was probably caused by something called wake turbulence. That first drop, that was wake turbulence. Here's what happens. Behind every plane, there is a swirling mass of air called a vortex that forms because of the disturbance caused by the plane moving through the air. These vortices can stay behind a plane for a long time and can be really strong. If another plane flies through them, it can cause some serious turbulence. But don't worry. Pilots are trained to avoid this by following specific patterns and maintaining a safe distance from other aircraft. Now onto the second drop, which was much more intense. This was probably caused by something called clear air turbulence. Unlike wake turbulence, which is caused by another plane, clear air turbulence is caused by factors like wind shear, temperature changes, and jet streams. These factors can cause the air to become unstable, leading to unpredictable and sometimes violent turbulence. Unlike wake turbulence, clear air turbulence isn't caused by another plane. It's just a result of the chaotic nature of the atmosphere. Even though it's invisible, it can be just as dangerous as a storm. Clear air turbulence is one of the most common causes of plane crashes. In fact, it's responsible for about 20% of all fatal accidents. So how do planes actually crash from turbulence? Well, it's not the turbulence itself that causes the crash, but rather the response to the turbulence. When a plane encounters severe turbulence, it can cause the passengers and cargo to suddenly shift in the aircraft, which can cause the plane to lose balance and altitude. If the plane loses enough altitude, it can stall, which means the wings lose their ability to generate lift, causing the plane to fall from the sky. But wait, you're still here watching this video. Doesn't that mean the plane didn't crash? Well, not necessarily. Sometimes the pilots can recover from a stall, but if they don't, well, then the plane crashes. And look, it's not always turbulence that causes plane crashes. Sometimes it's human error, mechanical failure, or bad weather. But no matter the cause, the results are often catastrophic. So next time you're on a plane, just remember, turbulence is just part of the ride. Just don't worry too much about those little dips and drops. Chances are you're gonna be just fine. Probably.